Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Science Cafe October 2020. Today we have a special session talking about food, genetics, and the connection between the both of them. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Science Cafe once again. And I really appreciate all of you staying tuned to this session. And for today's topic, we have a speaker from University Kebangsaan Malaysia or the National University of Malaysia, and she will be speaking on a topic called Nutrigenomics. Now, Nutrigenomics might be a mouthful for a lot of you, but don't worry, today our speaker would share a little bit of insight how you actually eat and how does it affect your health and your physique, and how does your genetic actually affects your response to food that you eat. Now, before I call up the speaker, I would like to just give a shout out to all the audience out there to participate in our feedback. So we want to know who are joining us here for tonight's session. So if you're new to the whole session, we really encourage you to take out your handphone or your mobile device, type in the URL slido.com, and you'll be prompted an event code. So you key in the event code for tonight, which is Nutrigene, and let us know who are our audience for tonight. And I believe the speaker would really appreciate if she knows who are she talking to for tonight's session. Now, I would like to acknowledge the organizer for tonight's Science Cafe, which is Young Scientist Network under the purview of the Academy of Science Malaysia, and with the support from the host, which is Paper and Toast, which is based in Bukit Bintang. As you know, now that we have the CMCO implemented in Selangor and KL, we had to venture into virtual means until we look forward to the next physical Science Cafe. Now that we explained a bit about what is Science Cafe is all about and who are our organizer, let us know a little bit more about tonight's speaker. So tonight we have Associate Professor Dr. Razina Sharif from the Center for Healthy Aging and Wellness, Faculty of Health Sciences, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. She completed her Master's in Food Toxicology from the University UKM and her doctoral degree in medicine in specializing in nutrigenomics from the University of Adelaide. Her field of interest in nutritional genomics and genetic toxicology from 2012 to the recent, she has worked as a lecturer in UKM and currently the head of Biocompatibility Lab UKM. Now, this lab focuses on the preclinical toxicity testing, and she has successfully secured international and national grants to support her research activity. With a H index of 11, she has authored various peer-review and high-impact factor journals and books, and she is also a professional member of the Nutrition Society Malaysia, EXCO in the Malaysian Society of Toxicology, and member of the Young Scientist Network Academy of Science Malaysia. Her key goal is to establish My Genome Sehat, a service that focuses on genome health by linking it with the nutritional, lifestyle, and environmental requirement for DNA damage prevention. So, Dr. Razina, I hope you're ready backstage. I'm going to pull you in. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Dr. Razina.
Okay. All right. So, hello, everyone. So, I think I straight away share screen, right, Sean?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. So, let me share my screen straight away. Okay. All right. So, Assalamualaikum and I think good evening. So, can I start straight away, Sean?
Yep. The stage is yours.
All right. Thank you. So, it's my pleasure to be invited when Sean actually texted me to talk. I was like, oh my God, this is the chance that I've been waited for like ages, because I've been wanting to talk in this slot, I think for like previous 2 years already. But it's just that sometimes like I think God make it like the right time. So I think during PKP is the best time for me. So here I am today to talk about how actually nutrition basically what you eat can affect your DNA or how your genes actually respond to whatever that you eat. Because like everybody likes eating, right? Don't tell me that you don't like eating. So you're not supposed to be here if you don't like eating. So today I'm going to talk about briefly on the world of personalized nutrition. So that's why the title today, I eat, therefore I am. So an insight into personalized nutrition. So basically, who am I? I just would like to just introduce myself. Like Sean was saying just now, I'm associate professor in Faculty of Health Sciences, UKM. So I was there since like my undergraduate years, my master's years, and then I continue as a tutor, and then I continue to do my PhD, and then I come back to be a lecturer. So UKM is always be like within my blood, I think. So I'm now heading the biocompatibility laboratory in UKM. So this lab is focusing on preclinical toxicity testing. So that's another thing that I'm passionate with, toxicology. And my research field is mainly on nutritional genomics and also food toxicology. I'll share a bit later. I was born in Kelantan. This is very important. I hope there's Kelantan is representative today. I don't know. I'm just so proud because I was born in Kelantan, and my passion basically to improvise wellness of community. So at the end of the day, you can do fundamental research, but at the same time you want to do something translational so that it will benefit the society and the community, and also increasing at the same time increasing public our public science literacy. So that's why doing science communication is actually my passion. So I think yeah, because I write a lot in Facebook. So if you want to know more, you can go to page Ini Science Babe. So it's a page in Bahasa Melayu. So you can know all the things about pseudoscience or all the science facts there. We try to write them into layman. All right. So moving on, this is actually outline for my not really lecture because I'm used to do lecture, right? So I don't think everyone would want to hear lecture at 8:30 p.m. So this is gonna be just a sharing session. So the first part of my talk today is more to case studies. The second part is on SNPs per se, and the third part is actually on concepts of DNA damage. All right. My first slide, I actually start with a question. Have you ever wondered why you can't gain weight? Well, I don't think this is the case, but because majority in Malaysia are having problem with their weight. So the next questions come along. Have you ever wondered why you can gain weight easily? Because of course you might actually have a friend, you both of you sit together having the same portion size, but you can see like you guys actually more or less having the same meal every day, and then you guys having the same meal pattern, etc. But you are having problem with your weight, and this person, your friend, actually stay in normal BMI all the time. So you might wonder why is this thing happening. So the next question I will actually ask is actually, can knowing more about your genes help you to eat, move, and live better? So this is the question that I would try to answer by the end of the lecture. All right. So the next question is on obesity. So you might actually wonder because people might say that if you are obese, people tend to ask, are your parents obese? Is your mom obese? Is your father obese? So basically, based on research, they actually said that if you have both parents which are obese, or if you have grandparents which are obese, you tend to be obese as well. So is it because of the genes, or is it because of the lifestyle? So there's another perspective actually, because normally when you have an obese family, you would see that their pet is also obese. So this is actually example of a cat, an obese cat, which is like their pet family. So is it because of environment? Is it because of the genes itself? Or is it because of the lifestyle? So it can be actually all. Okay. So this picture actually shows you the all the genes related to obesity. So it's quite complicated per se because there's not one gene actually responsible for the obesity per se. So for example here, if you are in a case of extreme obesity, so you would have all these gene related to you. So if you have problem with your waist to hip ratio, you would have all this gene. So if you have problems with body fat, you might actually have expression of this gene. And the most important one is actually FTO gene, which normally covers everything. So FTO gene is actually the most important gene in obesity. So FTO gene actually responsible in mitochondrial thermogenesis, which is responsible for your energy expenditure, meaning that your FTO gene, if it's in a good function, it should actually encourage you to have a good energy expenditure. So it is also involved in adipogenesis. So FTO gene will actually help to produce fat cells, and also it actually help in browning of fat tissues. You would have more brown fat cells, which is actually better for you rather than white fat cells. And also it actually regulates your food intake at the same time. So FTO gene, you need to have this gene in a, how to say, in a good function, whether it actually function normally, whether it is switch off or is it switch on. So it actually depends on these genes. So some of the genes might actually make you look fat, but having said that, in terms of obesity, you need to do extra to lose weight, because you cannot blame your gene to lose if you are obese. Of course, diet and lifestyle are really important for you to lose weight. It's not really because of your genes. Having FTO genes, which is not functional, is not the end of the world. So although you are having problem with your food intake or the production of fat cells, you might actually change the destiny. So the next question, I always keep asking questions, right? So do we need to test our DNA to know what is the right diet and exercise then? Okay, so I will leave it up to you to hear my talk, and then you can make up the conclusion. The next case study that I would like to actually touch today is actually on coffee. Everybody loves coffee. Even if you are not coffee drinker, tea also have caffeine. So the question here, decaf or not to decaf. So some options in Starbucks, you can have decaf coffee. So this might be useful for all the coffee drinkers out there. So the caffeine story is quite interesting because there's a lot of research evidence said that there's actually genetic variation can determine how fast caffeine is metabolized. So they did a study in a time trial performance in athletes, and they found that those with fast caffeine metabolizers perform better if they drink coffee. So that's why if you are an athlete or if you are keen in endurance sports, you will need actually, if you are a fast metabolizer, you will benefit more from drinking coffee or energy drink or whatever that actually contain caffeine. So I just would like to highlight what happened to caffeine when it enters your body. So people normally drink coffee to stay awake or when they feel like fatigue or they're sleepy. So you tend to drink coffee. So once actually caffeine or coffee enters your body, it'll be rapidly absorbed and broken down into compounds that will have various effect on different organs. But most importantly is actually your brain. So what happened is the caffeine will directly influence your brain by blocking the effects of adenosine, which is a signal that relaxes the brain and makes you feel tired. So what happened is like you have a receptor of adenosine, and instead of adenosine, caffeine comes in. So that's why when you drink coffee, you will not feel tired anymore. So this allow caffeine to bind to adenosine receptor because the structure of caffeine and adenosine more or less the same, and it actually blocks adenosine ability to make you feel drowsy. So you feel energetic and actually you feel awake. So throughout the day, the effects of caffeine will start to wear off. Of course, one cup of coffee would not stay long in your body. Our bodies do not store caffeine, and whatever doesn't get absorbed will be processed and metabolized in the liver by an enzyme called cytochrome 1A2 and exits your body through your urine. So that's why you can have a smelly urine, like you can have some smell of coffee in your urine. So, key concept here, caffeine, cytochrome 1A2 gene. And we have slow metabolizer, fast metabolizer. So as I mentioned about fast metabolizer, those with two copies of the A allele in the India CYP1A2 gene are considered fast metabolizers, and these people are able to clear caffeine from their body at a higher rate than people with one or more copies of the C allele, which is AC or CC genotypes. So people with AC or CC genotypes are considered slow metabolizers. So what happened is because their bodies are not able to process caffeine quickly, caffeine will stay in the system of slow metabolizers for a longer period of time. So slow metabolizers may experience headache or anxious. They also have an increased risk of high blood pressure. This is very important because at the end of the day, if you drink coffee and if you are slow metabolizers of caffeine, you would have an increased risk of high blood pressure, and also you can make your heart work harder. It's just because you are slow metabolizers. But if you regularly consume high amounts of caffeine, you might be making your heart work too hard too often, which eventually lead to bigger problems such as heart disease. So this is the summary of what I've mentioned just now. Like, if you have the AA genotype, you are fast caffeine metabolizer. So drinking coffee didn't increase subjects' heart attack risk. But if you are in the AC and CC genotype, you are actually in slow caffeine metabolizer. So drinking coffee frequently, addictively, may increase subjects' heart attack risk. So this is why sometimes doing genetic testing is actually important, because you would want to know if you tend to be like a regular coffee drinker, are you a fast metabolizer or are you slow metabolizer? Should you try to reduce coffee or should you continue to enjoy coffee? So that's some of the benefits if you can do genetic testing. All right. So I think this is just to emphasize on the caffeine metabolism, whereby you can be slow or moderate or fast metabolizer. So why actually this happened? So starting from the obesity case just now, the FTO gene, some people might actually have different type of gene. Some people might get it expressed, some people might not get it expressed. It can function easily, etc. And also back to our caffeine story, because some people are fast metabolizers, some people are slow metabolizers. So what happened is the concept of SNPs. So SNPs actually defined as single nucleotide polymorphism. So it actually happen in normally in population. So what is actually SNPs? So it sounded difficult. I will try to make it and try to explain it in a layman term. So what happened is this is your DNA. It's in double helix. So what happened is imagine your double helix unwind and you would have like one ladder and one ladder at the side. So here you would have the code of the nucleotide. So you would have TAGGC or any type of sequence. But what happened is The sequence actually referenced in ATCG, which is the nucleotide. So sometimes during the replication, error might occur. So what happened is maybe this one should be A, it being replaced with G. Maybe this one should be C, it is replaced with T. So sometimes error might occur. Just a simple example of like if you want to spell out apple, you would spell it as APPLE. But sometimes you're having mistakes, or you have spelling error, you might actually spell it as APLLE. So it might sound different, right? So that's why when mistakes occur, when error actually occur, this might cause an enzyme not to work correctly, or some gene might be expressed, some gene might not be expressed, and it can actually influence all the mechanism in the body because of one single nucleotide error. So that's why this is what we call as single nucleotide polymorphism. So like the caffeine story just now, if you have CYP1A2, everyone can metabolize their caffeine, so it's good. But having different variant of genotype, whether you are AA or you are AC, etc. So meaning that it can actually function better. Is it going to be metabolized faster, or is it going to be metabolized in a slow condition? So everything in your gene or every variant that actually happen will influence your activity of gene and also protein. So that's the basic concept of SNPs. So, understanding the concept of SNPs actually can help you to understand the world of nutritional and genetics. So, nutrigenomics normally we refer to how nutrition can affect your DNA and how your genes affecting your diet. So, sometimes it can be vice versa, because at the end of the day, this is you, and this is your food intake, and this is your DNA. So all these nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics actually influence to personalized nutrition. So all this data actually contribute to your tailored and individualized advice for personalized nutrition. So talking about nutrigenomics are quite complicated, I must say, because having said that, although I've been in this research for like quite a long time, it's still quite complicated for me because you cannot tackle everything. So when you're talking about nutrigenomics, the brief overview is how our genes and health are affected by nutrition. But in reality, your genes actually can be affected by this one, DNA methylation, and also your DNA sequence, where it can affect the activity of genes, and then it will affect the metabolism, and then it will affect your current health and also disease. So this is actually the second part of my talk today. So this one actually part of what I did during my master's, PhD, and also the continuing research. So my project is mainly not on SNPs, but my project is mainly on DNA damage. So the damage to the DNA. So imagine DNA is like your house. So the structure of your house. So what happened is when there's like damage to the structure of your house, of course you would call someone to repair, right? So that's what happened in your body. When there's damage to your DNA, you need DNA repair mechanism to happen. So DNA damage can be influenced by so many factors. So it can be from the your own metabolism, it can be from pollution, it can be from smoking, it can be from environment. But now we are seeing the fact that stress, lifestyle, and also when you are stressing yourself, working from home, you can actually inducing stress in your body, and also food, having like fast food, processed food, etc., can induce DNA damage in your body. So DNA damage often being associated with chronic diseases, you can name it. So everything actually associated with DNA damage, be it obesity, cancer, aging, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, everything. So even now, if you are stressing listening to my talk, you can understand anything. I wonder what Dr. Razina is talking about. You are actually inducing yourself with damage to your DNA. So you don't want that to happen. So as I mentioned just now, DNA damage, imagine DNA is like a structure of your house. You would actually call someone to repair it. So that's what happened in your body. So when there's like damage to your DNA, and then DNA repair mechanism will actually start in your body to repair the damage. So this is what you want. When there's damage, the body will start to repair and you would have viable cells. Sometimes, like my analogy of the house, if you call a wrong contractor, you would actually have misrepair or they might not repair it correctly. So mutation can happen. But if worst case scenario you are trying to call contractor but there's nobody can come because there's PKP etc. There's no repair, it can cause cell death. Of course, your house will collapse and then it can actually cause cell death. So this is what you don't want to happen. It can be your body can have misrepair or your body can have cell death. So my work actually started in 2008 when I was doing my masters. This one is actually I start to like on doing toxicology and more to DNA damage. So during my masters, there's a project. We collaborate with MACNA, National Cancer Council Malaysia. So what happened is there's a study on fermented food. So when I say fermented food, it's actually your belacan, your ikan masin, your ikan bilis, etc., and how that can affect DNA damage per se. So what happened is we found that this food actually can cause some genotoxic events, meaning that they can actually cause some damage to the cell, might be due to the salt content itself. Because at the end of the day, every fermented food in Malaysia, although it's delicious, but it's actually high in salt. So yeah, salt was found as the main additive, and plus because of fermentation, um, nitrosamine can actually occur in your food product. So all this, I'm not trying to blame our food. Our food is really delicious, but that's why the principle of toxicology, everything like the dose that makes the poison. So everything that you eat, you have to eat with moderation. So this one is an article actually produced in I think Berita Harian, published in Berita Harian in 2017. So this one is actually from my research with Makna. So hindari makanan perak garam because dia boleh menggalakkan pertumbuhan sel darah. Okay. So moving on to my PhD years, although I did a lot during my PhD, but I just want to share with you on zinc and DNA damage. So what happened is for zinc and DNA damage, there's the most important thing is the U-shaped dose response. So the U-shaped dose response is actually important for, I can say, all the micronutrients, all the antioxidants, all the food actually, because we know that there are some food that actually involve in antioxidants. There are some food that we thought that is good, like anti zinc or vitamin C or vitamin A. So carotenoid and everything, antioxidant. But the most important thing is actually this one, the U-shaped dose response. So what is the U-shaped dose response is what we are seeing during my PhD when we did a study on zinc. So of course you would actually have adverse effect when you are in deficient condition, but this is the region of homeostasis, meaning that these are the region for optimal level. And you can see the response of any toxicity effect actually occur when you increase the dosage. So when you are deficient, you are having adverse effect. When you are over, you are also having the similar effect. So that's why less is actually better. So sometimes more is actually maybe it's not good for you. So that's why sometimes taking supplement maybe it's not necessary. So some people actually take supplement, they think because it's necessary it will give benefit to their body, etc. But maybe sometimes you don't really need it. You can actually get it from natural products or like local food or local fruits and vegetables, etc. So what happened here? Yeah. This is the graph that I'm showing you. So at zinc, at deficiency level, you can see adverse effects. So these are the marker for DNA damage. So we have all these three markers for DNA damage. So at a lower concentration or at zero concentration of zinc, you can see higher DNA damage, and we can see the trend start to go up when you are at the higher concentration. So this is the concept of U-shaped dose response applicable to every micronutrients, every antioxidants, every minerals, trace elements, etc. So sometimes please actually try to avoid things that are overdose. So moderation is the key here. All right. So moving on, when I get back from my PhD years, this is actually my research that we're completed in UKM. So this is my student Ashila. I'm not sure whether she's around today. She's in Uniza now. So this is her master's project. So what we did is there's a elderly cohort that we did, and we measure a lot of things in this elderly cohort. One of the things that we measure is actually on cognitive function, because for elderly, cognitive function is really important. So for elderly, cognitive function meaning that the ability for you to memorize things, the ability for you to understand things, the ability for your brain to function. So sometimes you tend to forget things, etc. Be very careful. You might actually have the prerequisite or prefactors for cognitive impairment. So in elderly, cognitive function is actually vital, and as you age, you would actually have reduction in the cognitive function. But some of lifestyle factors can actually induce the cognitive function to be better and to be actually in healthy condition. So just like our ex-prime minister Tun Mahathir, right? He's 93 years old, but he can still be our prime minister previously. So what we found is, interestingly, DNA damage is actually higher in those with mild cognitive impairment. This stage of mild cognitive impairment is actually the reversible stage before you can get into dementia, penyakit nyanyuk. So that's why we actually try to see what actually happened dekat these people with mild cognitive impairment. Are they having what kind of lifestyle? Are they having a lot of DNA damage? Are they what kind of food that they eat? But what we found is DNA damage is also higher in those with mild cognitive impairment. So this is another marker to measure DNA damage. This one is alkaline comet assay. We took their blood and we ran the experiment, and we can see that this is the DNA damage level. So this is cognitive impact individuals. So you can see it's actually higher in those with cognitive impact, those with mild cognitive impairment. So moving on, the next research that I would like to talk about is actually very interesting research just published recently. So this one is on intermittent fasting. So because we are seeing the fact that, okay, mild cognitive impairment individuals have a higher DNA damage. So what can we do to reduce this DNA damage? So we thought about following these individuals for 3 years, because this is like elderly cohort. So we followed them up for 3 years, And then these people actually we follow them, the one dan yang berpuasa sunat. So this one hanya dijalankan in Malay population. Those people yang berpuasa sunat Isnin and Khamis, so they are intermittent fasters. So what happened is we found that intermittent fasting actually reduce DNA damage related to mild cognitive impairment, and possible pathway is related to formation of ketone bodies and also activation of endogenous antioxidant, meaning that if you are doing intermittent fasting, you can actually induce endogenous antioxidant. You don't have to take antioxidant from outside. You don't have to take supplement for antioxidant or juice for extra antioxidant or this functional food or that functional food. You don't have to spend any money. All you need to do is fast. Okay. So this is actually a graph that is very interesting graph that I would like to actually highlight here. So this is actually again biomarker for DNA damage, and this is our different type of intermittent fasting status. So you would have regular fasters, you would have irregular fasters, and you would have these people that don't really fast at all. But all these people have mild cognitive impairment. Okay, so that's why at baseline their DNA damage is actually quite high. But comparing to those regular fasters compared with non-regular fasters, still the DNA damage of these people who are fasting are actually lower than these people who are not fasting. Interestingly, after 3 months, they actually have a reduction in DNA damage for regular fasters. And as you compare these people who are fasting every week without fail, Isnin dan Khamis without fail, and they like to puasa sunat yang lain-lain juga without fail. So what happened is their DNA damage as you compare to non-fasters are way lower than the non-fasters. So this is actually amazing because we actually follow them up for 3 years. This is actually the first study to highlight the change in your lifestyle can actually help in terms of reducing DNA damage. So there's actually DNA damage and lifestyle, of course, has a direct link. So what we come out in HCare, which is where I'm based with, Center of Center for Healthy Aging and Wellness, we actually come out with a service called My Genome Sehat. So My Genome Sehat is personalized counseling based on your stress level, your nutrient analysis, your genome health, your dietary analysis, and your anthropometry status. So what happened is we did like proof of concept for My Genome Sehat. So after 6 weeks of intervention of My Genome Sehat, of course, actually, because what happened is we took their blood and then we did all the tests and then we give them personalized counseling. So of course, you would actually see changes after you did the intervention. So what we found is this. So after 6 weeks of intervention, the DNA damage is actually lower after change of lifestyle. So that actually brings me to the future of personalized nutrition. So basically, if you do decide to conduct genetic testing, do it. If you have extra money, I actually encourage you to do it. This is because you would actually know more about the inside of your body. So this is the kind of report that you would actually have. So this is the example of genes because I think most of the company, especially in Malaysia, they focus on the SNPs. So remember what I actually talk about SNPs? So this is the genes, and this is the marker representative of SNPs at location where you don't have to worry about this. What you have to worry is this one. So from here, you would know whether your risk is elevated or your risk actually you don't have to worry about your risk, and you would see there's some recommendation here as well. So it's actually a good test to do, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to know, because like me myself, I still have my envelope of result actually still lying on my desk, just because I don't want to know the result. I mean, like, if I know that I have problems with my FTO gene, so that's why I cannot actually reduce weight easily, I'm actually scared that I might be into stress, or I might get depressed, etc. I think it depends on the individual. Some people think that if they know they have cancer genes, so they would actually have an increased risk, right? So some people might get scared, some people might get depressed, some people might not be in a good condition. So I think it depends on the individual. But if you are a very positive person, go and try to do genetic testing, especially on nutrition and also exercise. But choose the best company that would actually come up with recommendation, and you can actually discuss with them what kind of advice that you would have in terms of your daily diet, or in terms of your daily exercise, or in terms of your daily routine. Because some genetic testing can focus on nutrition only, it can focus on your lifestyle, it can focus on your sleep, it can actually focus on the diseases, because some diseases have certain genes. Example, Alzheimer disease is related to ApoE4 genes. So if you have predisposition for this ApoE4, so you will actually have a higher tendency to develop Alzheimer. So choose a company that would actually know what they're doing. So moving on, I think the future of personalized nutrition is actually endless. But having said that, there are not that many companies in Malaysia that is on this market at the moment. So now people, I mean, in the US or in Europe, people are moving into microbiome. This is another interesting topic. Maybe we can discuss this in another session, because microbiome is individualized as well, and you would have different bacteria, different fungi, different virus in your body. So individualized microbiome is actually very useful to know what kind of diseases and what kind of function that they have. Some people might have good bacteria, some people might not have this good bacteria, so that's why they need to increase the good microbiome. Or the future of personalized nutrition, maybe it actually can come out in an app, because I think in Europe and in US this is actually possible, because they actually have an app to monitor their diet based on genetic testing, and also their exercise. So what kind of exercise is useful for them? Because actually if you do genetic testing, right, there are some people that are better in strength workout. There are some people that are actually better in cardio workout. So which one should they do in terms of maintaining their weight? And also, I think at the end of the day, it can be useful, depends on how you are actually doing it. So when you're talking about personalized nutrition, you would actually have all these things, and it's quite complicated per se. You wouldn't have any just one biomarker to do nutritional genomics, or just one test to do nutritional genomics. No. So there are so many things involved in personalized nutrition, but SNPs, the concept of DNA damage, is actually part of them. I didn't talk much about the omics technology. I didn't talk much on the gene diet interaction per se. So the concept of epigenetics, the concept of methylation. So I didn't touch everything. So personalized nutrition is very broad topic, but what you can do is the first step, which is to do, maybe if you have extra money, extra resources, do a genetic testing. It'll be good for you. So this is actually second last of my slides. So just want to share with you quickly, we did also study using functional food. So we found that if you consume stingless bee honey, it actually can protect against induced DNA damage. So what happened is your stingless bee honey, your madu kelulut, is not something that it's not something not useful. So do not underestimate our local product. So because some people actually believe in like multivitamins, and this vitamin, this antioxidant, etc. But somehow our local product is really at par with other international products as well. So instead of like going through all these antioxidants, all these juices, all these pills, all these tablets, go into like local product and functional food, especially coming from our own country. So madu kelulut, we found that is actually good in protecting against inflammation, and also it's actually good in protecting against DNA damage. So I think that's the last of my slide. I do welcome any questions from the audience. And last but not least, this is not my cat, but my cat looks the same like me. It's obese as well, like not really the master. Having bad genes are not the end of the world, please. It's not the destiny. So be like a boss. So you can, although you have a bad gene, but of course you can change your lifestyle, etc. Any questions, if you don't really have time to contact me or to ask, you can actually go and email me. I would certainly answer your email, but maybe not at that time. So I think that's about it, Sean. That's the end of
Thank you so
my,
much.
yeah. So I would welcome
And,
some questions.
and we do have some questions from the floor. But before
Oh,
I
we
begin
do.
on the Q&A, we would like to welcome everybody to answer a survey on slido.com. So just take out your mobile phone, type in the URL sli.do, and let us know your feedback. What are you aware of today's topic, which is nutrigenomics, before the session? And maybe by the end of the Q&A, I'll launch another session where we ask again, did you felt tonight's session was beneficial for your understanding about nutrigenomics? Now, I'm a big fan of genetics, and I'm a big fan of food. And I think most Malaysians just like to eat food, but they are very concerned about how they eat actually affect their health. And I think in the few case studies that you showed earlier about how different people react to caffeine differently, and how it somehow, for poor metabolizer, it affects the level of people's risk of getting a heart attack. But there's one question, and I would like to flash it out over here. Um, so if you could see in the question, any study on the effects of caffeine on DNA damage? I think there was some disconnect. So
Yeah,
maybe you want to clarify on this
yeah,
question?
yeah. Yeah, thank you, Prof. Riza. This is actually my colleague in UKM, but different faculty. So, what happened is, I didn't do any study on caffeine and DNA damage, but there's previous other research actually on caffeine and DNA damage. So, caffeine, yes, drinking a lot of caffeine can cause DNA damage, unfortunately, but of course, you need to know the dosage. So what happened is, that's why they actually recommend in Europe countries. So they just recommend 1 to 2 cups per day, and then that actually depends on what type of coffee that you brew. Is it like instant coffee, or is it like the coffee brew that you actually brew yourself, or is it just the kopi kampung that you consume? So there's so many confounding factors as well. So that's why the recommendation is just 1 or 2 cups per day to avoid the adverse effect.
Mhm. And
Don't
I
go
think
extra.
I'm quite sure there's an optimal level for the Asian population as well. Is there any studies done on Asian population?
As far as I'm concerned, for caffeine, no. No, because I don't
Hmm.
think we actually see drinking coffee is like a habit in Asian countries. Unfortunately, no. But in Western, yes, they even have like
Okay.
study on coffee drinkers with cancer. But I'm lucky that they didn't find any relationship with it. So I'm actually happy with it.
Lucky or lucky?
Because
In
I
a
love
sense,
my
I think we should be lucky that they didn't find any relationship.
yeah.
But again, something about habits as well. I think we love fermented food, and you
Oh
mentioned about the
no.
effects of fermented food, and I think that's a very Asian thing that we keep our food fermented. A question from one shaft. I thought fermented food is good for our digestive
Yeah.
system. I think that's not what you meant. I think it's about the composition of the process that
Yeah.
makes it.
Thank
So you might
you,
want to
Dr.
clarify.
Wan. So it's a good question though, because I think in my talk maybe I didn't share much about this. But fermentation, of course, is good if they have like probiotics, because probiotics will help in terms of digestion and microbiome, etc. But at the end of the day, fermentation process also can actually produce another thing. So this one is more to nitrosamine and also some other carcinogens. So nitrosamine normally will form when you have protein that is being fermented or being through process like pickled, smoking, etc. So that's why like daging salai, ikan keli salai, all this belacan, cencalo, etc. They all will actually produce nitrosamine. The question now is how much of nitrosamine contained in the product, because
Mm,
different type of processes will have different kind of different amount of product. So that one we don't really have data. So I think there's another research that we need to do to see the nitrosamine content in our local product.
and looking forward to that study itself and
Oh
probably
my
some
god.
recommendation. How
Yeah,
can
some
we?
recommendation.
Okay. There was another question about supplements, and I think
Okay.
you mentioned before moderation is key. But the question that I think everybody would like to know is how could we know that the supplement we're taking is optimum, or
Yeah.
are we at the risk
Yeah.
of overdose? So,
Yeah, that's a very interesting question though. And I get it a lot. So whenever I give a talk and I talk about supplement, people will actually try to ask me. The best answer that I can give is actually for you to do blood tests. So for each vitamins or minerals, you can actually go to any lab. They can do blood tests for you, and they would actually see whether your vitamins are in optimal level or are you deficient in certain vitamins. So what happens is if you are deficient in certain vitamins, you can always increase them by eating local fruits and vegetables, because you can get all your vitamins and minerals from local fruits and vegetables. So you don't really need an extra dosage of vitamin C per se. You can get it from maybe just consuming oranges, citrus, fruits, and also like jambu batu is actually 3 times higher than our vitamin C in orange. So I think
wow.
try to introduce more local fruits and vegetables into your daily diet, because at the end of the day, there are so many controversial studies at the moment because they are saying that intake of multivitamin supplement may increase risk of breast cancer and other types of cancer. I didn't share the research just now, but a lot of evidence are coming out in terms of intake of multivitamin. So you can just Google them or do like some research background on it. It's very interesting. So that's why to know
Mm.
your
And
optimum
for
level, yeah, do your blood test.
Okay. And for maybe some people that would like to have a shortcut to nutrition, and I know there are some people who are lazy or just doesn't like to eat jambu air or whatever fruits that they have. Can it be a is there a health requirement that people do take supplement? I mean, like I do heard of people that are deficient on certain vitamins and they take it on medical reasons, but not so much on like unprescribed or undiagnosed on
Yeah,
unadvised. Like
yeah.
there are
If
people
you
that are
are like having medical prescription, you might be fine, but I don't think supplement is there to, I mean, it might be useful to prevent you from diseases, but don't rely it for a long time. So don't try to be, I mean, dependent on the multivitamin itself. So example, right, Sean, example glucosamine. So glucosamine is actually known for people
mm,
who have like problems with their joints. So orang yang sakit lutut, etc., they always
mm,
go for glucosamine. But a lot of evidence actually said that glucosamine
mm,
is not really a good thing for you. It maybe it's the placebo effect. So what happened is your brain is actually telling you, oh, okay, because I eat this glucosamine, I will be better. So and then they thought
mm,
that eating glucosamine will actually help them to walk faster or tak ada dah sakit lutut, etc. So I think it depends on the individual. Yeah, the placebo effect is very important in this thing. Do not trust your
Mm.
supplement per se.
Do a blood test. First. And I think there was a question revolving around certain dietary special diet. So this question from Vashna
Right.
V. So how about vegetarian who are keep on consuming vegetarian chicken and fish? Does their gene might change in the future or the genes get damaged? And I think this is
Yeah.
talking about certain nutrient that may be missing by having
Yeah,
vegetarian diet.
true, Vaish. So actually, when I was doing my PhD, right, because I was focusing on zinc, so those one of the population that are at risk for zinc deficiency are actually vegetarians, because at the end of the day, they didn't
Mm,
take any seafood and meat, so they take only vegetables, and there are some compound in vegetables called as phytate. So this phytate can actually block the absorption of zinc or whatever minerals in the vegetables itself. So that's why people who are practicing vegetarians, they tend to have problems with deficiency in certain minerals. But
mm,
doesn't mean that their genes might change in the future. I might actually say there's some research that actually relate them with a higher DNA damage just because of their, I mean, not really not balanced diet, because they actually have a balanced diet per se. They're just not consuming meat and their seafood and etc. But of course, you can they have evidence on DNA damage, but of course, you can actually counter them with your veggies and fruits as antioxidants and as actually the prevention for DNA damage. So I think I'm
mm,
not going to actually tell you, okay, do not be vegetarians, etc. I respect everyone to be vegetarian. Even me myself, I do vegetarian day every Friday. So
mm,
yeah, yeah, there's a pros and cons though. Like doing keto diet, doing paleo diet, Atkins diet, everything has pros and
mm,
cons. I would actually encourage suku-suku separuh. So that's the best though,
mhm.
the one from our government. So if you're a
Okay.
vegetarian, Aish, yeah, go for the concept of suku-suku separuh as well.
Mm. And I think it's also important that if you know that zinc is going to be deficient in your diet, then probably look for other sources of zinc that will still
Mm,
comply with your diet. I think it's also
mm.
about being informed about your current health
Yeah,
and your. Mm,
you need to do background research, and you need to do not just because other people are vegetarian, you become vegetarian. You need to dig more about this lifestyle.
correct. Another different lifestyle which you mentioned in your presentation is intermittent fasting. So there was this question.
Yeah,
Do you recommend it? I mean, it's
I
a
actually
trend
recommend.
now.
Macam intermittent fasting. Oh, okay, not puasa. Okay, like this. So, Sean, intermittent fasting, they have like wet fasters and also dry fasters. So, meaning that if you're referring to wet fasters, you can fast the whole day, but you can drink water. So, if you
Mm,
are doing dry fasting, so it's like puasa for orang Islam, you
mm,
cannot drink anything, you cannot eat anything. So, that's dry fasters. So what happened
mm,
is in intermittent fasting, orang kita dah buat lama dah, but the Westerners actually trying to introduce back this thing because they found this all these benefits. So what happened is they start to promote 18/6. So 18/6 meaning that the window period of 6 hours of you're eating and 18 hours of
mhm.
you trying to actually stop yourself from eating. So
All right.
if you stop your dinner at 5, you would actually consume back your brunch at 10 or 11. So that's
I
18/6. So what happened is I actually encourage it if you can. It's just because when I teach biochemistry, your body need 12 hours for your for your body to use your glycogen and also your storage of energy storage, and for you to start using your fat cells as energy. So if you are actually do not pass these 12 hours, your body will still try to use glucose in your liver and then all the glucose storage. But if you exceed 12 hours, they normally go for other options for the fat cells to be used for energy. So
I,
meaning that the longer that you starve yourself, the higher chance you can use energy from your fat cells. So
mm,
sometimes it's good to use energy from your fat cells because your fat cells is like balloon. So it can shrink and then it can come back. So that's why
mm,
people with obesity, they can lose weight fast, but if they do not take care of their health or their diet, they can gain weight. So that's
mm,
the disadvantages of fat cells. So
true.
to encourage your fat cells to work, you need to actually not really starve yourself. I don't really say starve yourself, but maybe try to limit your eating window. So
All right.
stop early for your dinner and try to have brunch instead of breakfast.
I
So
see.
yeah, I would actually encourage it.
Okay. So there you have it. Dr. Resina's take on intermittent fasting. We do have one question that kind of raised the concern about worry about pesticides and natural foods and vegetable, and they were saying a lot of people are opting for supplements because they worry about pesticides that is in the natural food source. And I think
Oh
that
no, yeah,
that's not a
yeah.
question, but more of a opinion being shared by the audience as well. So
Yeah, yeah. So the thing is, yeah, I do aware about this because some people said that our pesticide residue in our local product is actually quite high, which is I think some of it might be true, some of it might be not, because we have our government to enforce or to play a role in terms of checking on the pesticide residue. So what happened is these people believe that if they have higher pesticide residue, it will actually affect their health. But at the end of the day, your body have your liver. So if you have a healthy liver, do not worry about this because your liver will actually help you to metabolize all these pesticide. So what happened is if they have like this unwanted components or unwanted residue, it will be metabolized and it will be excreted easily. So, but if you have a healthy
mm,
liver, so I mean there's pros and cons. That's why I would
mm,
actually encourage people again. Besides intermittent fasting, grow your own vegetables and start taking
yep.
care of all the chemicals, and because if you grow your own vegetables, you know that okay, this contain less pesticide residue, or this is actually higher pesticide residue, etc. Because right, Sean, in Europe you would have different section of vegetables that doesn't have pesticide, but maybe soon in Malaysia, who knows.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay. We have a lot of question that is talking about whether tea has any effect on our gene, whether certain food in the long term has any effect. So we'll try to answer them more quickly because otherwise we'll be running short of time. There was one question, if I could just bring it out, and I think this is more on question about functional food. Let me just get it here. All right. How about other honeys like madu tualang? Is it the effect of the madu that will reduce the DNA damage as well?
Yeah.
Just maybe a quick answer.
uh, Yeah, we don't really do research with madu tualang. Unfortunately, we just focus on madu kelulut. But as far as I'm concerned, there's no study on madu tualang per se. But if they have a high antioxidant, so they might have the similar effect like madu kelulut. So they might actually be able to reduce DNA damage as well. But we need research to say that.
Mm, mm, mm. And apart from coffee, there's actually a green tea fan over here. What about green tea? Is it okay for regular intake? And I
Yes,
think
go
this
for
is
green tea.
around
Meaning green tea
but
is actually good for your boosting metabolism. It's actually good for if you are keen to do weight loss. And if you are even like if you're doing intermittent fasting, they actually encourage you to drink green tea just because it can actually boost your metabolism, and also it can increase your burning of fat. So yeah, go for green tea because the caffeine level is actually much lesser than the black tea and also of course coffee. Yeah, if you can, if you
Mm.
like, go for green tea, but without sugar, not the Thailand green tea, the Japanese green tea.
All right, understood on that. Any proof of zinc supplement intake that can improve our health? So I think
Yeah,
you mentioned about the U-shaped model,
yeah.
and any proof.
So yeah, zinc supplementation actually improve our health if you are zinc deficient. So
Ah,
we did another study is actually on zinc supplementation in these people that doesn't really have low zinc. We couldn't found any beneficial impact. Only if you have low zinc deficient, like only if you have low zinc, then you can see the impact.
I
So that's
see.
why the U-shaped dose response. So if you have enough, if you give extra supplement, you would see like adverse effect. So that's why knowing your optimal level is actually good. For example, zinc, the optimal level is 16 micromolar in your blood. So I cannot remember on top of my head for other type of minerals, but if you have resources, go for blood testing.
Mm-mm. And we're coming, before we transition to another team, I think there were a lot of questions about genetic testing, but I'll put it at the last. And this is probably the last few questions about diet and gene. Does protein in dairy products, etc., can induce cancer gene expression, which later on cause gene damage? Because some milk have preservative, other added things that we aren't sure about. So I think this is a very concerned consumer about protein in dairy products.
Yeah, I think thanks, Monisha. I think I must say, being a food toxicologist, the more that I know, the more paranoid that I can become. But I think everything is in moderation. Oh, I know there are some preservative and some additive that can cause alteration in gene expression. Everything has that, not only in your dairy product. So what happened is that's why moderation is the key. So of course, if you know that the protein in dairy product might cause DNA damage, you might actually skip dairy product then. So there's no evidence for this as yet,
Mm-hmm.
but there
Mm-hmm.
are some study that actually said drinking milk can increase risk of cancer per se, and there are some evidence vice versa. It's very controversial, but I
Mm-hmm.
think the key here is moderation. So
Mm.
moderation is the key. Don't be too paranoid.
Okay. And there was one personal message on the question: will diet cause damage on our body in the long term? And if the damage is caused, is there any way that we could reverse a DNA damage?
Yeah,
So.
yeah, yeah. So that's why our center actually provide a service called My Genome Sehat. So
Mm-hmm.
when I say about diet can cause DNA damage, right, Sean? So doesn't mean that your fruits, vegetables is actually harmful, because at the end of the day, I don't really emphasize on your processed food and fast food and all this junk food, etc. So all
Mm-hmm.
this, I think people would actually be able to differentiate between what is healthy diet, what is not good for you. So all
Mm-hmm.
these things that are not good for you, that one is actually more to that one is carcinogen, that one is mutagen, and that one can cause DNA damage. One example that I can share with you: satay. Everybody loves satay.
Yep.
So the carbon when you grill the meat
Mm-hmm.
actually called as polyaromatic hydrocarbon. So this
Mm-hmm.
PAH can actually is one of the potent carcinogen,
Oh
which
dear.
is which can increase risk of your cancer. So how
Mm-hmm.
would you tackle it? Of course, moderation is the key, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why you are eating your cucumber and your and you have all your marinades with your satay as well, and also having a lot more of antioxidants will actually help to decrease the DNA damage effect. So
Mm-hmm.
That's why when you talk about food toxicology, I might need another lecture on this though. I might need another session.
Yeah, we don't
I
have
can
enough
talk about
time for
satay,
another
I can talk about burger, I can
toxicology.
talk about sausage. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe the next science cafe, Dr. Regina, our probably the subject would be burgers, satays, and cancer.
No. Yeah, grilled things. Yeah, yeah. Food
Alright,
toxicology to say. Yeah.
alright. So I digress a bit. I've consolidated all the questions that is not so much food related, but on your specialty on genetic testing. So a lot of the question were asking like, how much does genetic testing cost, and how do they perform a genetic
Uh,
testing? I'm not sure whether My Genome Sehat does that, but maybe to the best of your knowledge, you can.
yeah, I think if you want to go for genetic testing, right? I mean, you can opt for My Genome Sehat. Well, we do provide service, so you can inquire more at our center. We do have like a Facebook page as well. You can just DM them.
Mm-hmm.
So, or you can go for other option. I think there's a lot of other companies that offer in terms of SNPs.
Mm,
Example, they actually check on your nutrition, lifestyle, and also exercise. So I know it's not cheap. It can be as low as 1,000 ringgit, or it can be
mm.
as high as 5,000 ringgit or 8,000 ringgit. So it
Wow.
depends on the more nutrients that you choose, the more expensive it become. So
Mm,
because this kind of technique is not cheap, because I'm doing research in this area, it's not
mm,
cheap. So
mm,
I mean, so that's why I keep mentioning, if you do have extra resources, extra money, go for it.
mm.
But if you don't, it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
This will help you to be better. I mean, like, you know, you have cancer risk, you know you have obesity risk, you know you have diabetes, or you know you are fast metabolizer of caffeine or slow metabolizer of caffeine, etc. So
Mm.
if you Google genetic testing nutrients, because I'm not going to endorse any companies, etc.
So,
So if you do your Google and just try to search Nutrigenomics company Malaysia, I think you can find all these company listed. So yeah,
all
but
right.
it's not
It's not.
it's
Sorry.
not cheap. Yeah,
It's not. Okay.
not cheap.
All right.
I think COVID-19 swab test is much more cheaper, like way cheaper than genetic testing.
Okay. I mean, for good reason, COVID is one off, and genetic testing you probably would only need it.
Lifetime, yeah.
So it makes sense it's for the value, but the technology isn't cheap. I agree. We're coming to our last question. Before that, I would like to encourage the audience to go to slido.com. I know we have a lot of audience out there who is watching. Do give us your feedback. I understand better about today's topic, which is nutrigenomics, after today's session and as well as the Q&A. So let us know what do you feel about today's session, whether you benefited from the topics, and before you leave off and send off, do participate in this survey to let us know that we're doing a good job here, or Dr. Resina's explanation is understandable for the audience out there. This is something I think came from aspiring student in this field, and
Yeah, I know her though. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, how do I start to pursue studies in specialized nutrition, or
Yeah,
maybe
thanks,
more
Regina.
corrective?
Yeah, I'm glad that I have inspired someone actually tonight to do research in this area. So I mean, this area is a new thing at the moment. So I think the best way to start is actually to search lecturers working in this area. So I know in UKM, I think at least me, myself, and I. So that having said that, there's not so many people in this nutrigenomics area or in this personalized nutrition area. So search yourself for a good supervisor that can actually tell you about this personalized nutrition, or better if you can go overseas and then grab the experience there and come back to Malaysia to contribute back to the country. So I think, yeah, how do you start? Just start by pursuing your master's or your PhD, or you can start working in this company related to this nutrigenomics.
All right. And we were probably coming to an end to our session. We could have a few take home messages. I think if correct me if I'm wrong. I think Dr. Razina, your take-home message is number one: learn to have moderation in your food. It's good to have a balance. There's too much good things might not be good for you, but also taking an informed choice about what you take as a diet. And I think there was a lot of questions about genetic testing, and I'm quite sure you stand in between. You did a genetic test as well, and you don't want to know the result, and it's perfectly your choice. Not to have that fear factor, but for those of you who are very optimistic about the technology, about the future, you will get a genetic testing because it might benefit you for the rest of your life. And when it comes to food, there's always constant research. I think I felt that even for you, you were always asking questions more and more. And I really appreciate the effort by Dr. Razina to localize a lot of the research here, because the reason why we were having a lot of questions like, is there an Asian study? Is there an Asian study? I think what you are doing right now, and I hope that there are many more researchers out there that do into localized studies into nutrigenomics, because the Asian gene pool is definitely very different from the Caucasians, from the Europeans and the North Americans, and we definitely need more information about how does food really impact our gene, and like vice versa. So any more closing remarks do you like to add, Dr. Razina, for your end?
Yeah, just a quick one take home message from me. Whatever that you have, if you decide to do genetic testing, it's not the end of the world. If you are, for example, if you have high risk for cancer, etc., it's always come back to your lifestyle. So
Hmm.
if you have the, I mean, if you have the answer, so change your lifestyle. Don't become like depressive, or like you are stressing about it. Be positive, stay healthy, and stay safe, and lead a healthy lifestyle. It's a reminder for myself as well.
All right. And there's one very good comment from Prof. Mimi. There's just a word for you. One of the best sessions ever.
Yay!
All right,
Nice
that's
to
a
meet you.
word of endorsement from Prof. Mimi. So with that, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. Razina, for having your sharing session. Probably we will talk more of a possibility of another session with you. We'll see how it goes. I think this is a topic that a lot of people would easily
Yeah, I
relate to,
can
because
look too.
and thank you so much, everybody, for staying tuned tonight. We have 65 live audience. That's a good number for you, Dr. Razina. And the number stays throughout the whole night, and that shows how engaging your session is tonight. With that, thank you so much. We are having a session on November, so stay tuned to the Science Cafe KL Facebook page or YSN ASM Facebook page for the latest announcement for November's session. So we will let you know who's the speaker, what we're going to talk about very soon. So with that, thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody. Doctor, do you have anything to say?
No, I'm fine.
No. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a great evening. See you next month.